What if I told you that we have a new source of fuel? It's cheap, it burns cleaner than coal, it's found right here in America, and there's enough of it for the next 100 years.
The fuel is natural gas, and the new source? Gigantic deposits of shale rock, thousands of feet underground. This one is called the Marcellus Shale. It covers 95,000 square miles across 4 states.
So this is the famous shale.
This is the famous shale.
And there is gas.
There is gas in that piece.
Locked in there.
Correct.
How come I can't see it or smell it?
If you were to crack a piece of this off, you would actually smell a piece of gas. Not only a heater.
George Stark represents Cabot Oil and Gas, the second largest gas producer in the Marcellus. We toured a new shale gas well.
Typically, we're pulling in an average day almost 750 million cubic feet of natural gas a day.
Are you kidding? Where's it going?
It's going to heat homes, it's going to fuel our vehicles, it's going to create electricity.
And how do you get gas from shale? With a high-tech operation called fracking.
Okay, suppose I'm America and I have an insatiable craving for gas and oil. Excuse me, guys. Okay. So in fracking, we drill way, way deep, past the water table as far as 2 miles. And here's the technologically amazing part. We make a right turn and we drill horizontally through that shale so we can slurp up all that delicious gas and oil.
I'll let Rob Jackson describe the next step. He's a professor of environment studies at Duke University.
And that step is to inject millions of gallons of water and chemicals at very high pressures.
Natural gas is trapped in billions of tiny pores. We fracture the rock to release it, hence the word fracking.
Now actually, we've been fracking rocks for oil for over 60 years. But in the last decade, we've totally transformed the process by adding in that horizontal business, all those chemicals, and the incredible pressure of the water.
Building a fracking well means a few months of noisy trucks and dust. After that, the finished well quietly pumps out gas for 30 to 50 years.
They give you a certain amount of money and to sign with them for a certain period of time.
Fracking can turn struggling farmers into millionaires. Bob and Tina McShane signed away the rights to the shale under their farm, but the money isn't flowing yet. They live in New York State, which so far hasn't permitted fracking.
Hi, girls. We support 40-some beef cows here. Money isn't everything. If we don't have quality water here, we don't have anything.
We don't have a farm.
Stories of contaminated water from fracking are giving them second thoughts.
You've got spills, you've got water aquifer pollution.
Ramsey Adams runs the environmental group Catskill Mountain Keeper.
Fracking is a very industrial process that uses chemicals that are toxic, carcinogenic, endocrine disrupting.
As it turns out, fracking is just a tiny bit controversial.
The town is going to put it to a vote in 3 weeks.
In Matt Damon's new movie, Promised Land, the fracking company is the bad guy.
I'm not the guy with all the answers.
Oh, well then you'd be the perfect guy for them to send here to deny everything.
As you'd guess, the gas industry says that the dangers are overblown, that the chemicals aren't so bad.
Bottom line, 99% of it is water and sand. We add an anti-corrosive agent. The last thing we're adding is what we refer to as a surfactant. Funny name, but it's really hand soap.
Actually, according to the EPA, the chemicals are slightly scarier than hand soap.
These are things that you don't want in people's drinking water and you don't want sloshing around the environment.
Rob Jackson studied the water at hundreds of homes near Marcellus fracking wells.
We asked a simple question: is your water any different if you're living near a natural gas well? And it was a glass half empty, glass half full kind of story. We did not find evidence for the chemicals in fracturing fluids, for instance. What we did find was much higher likelihood that you would have gas in your water, methane, ethane, and propane, the things that are in the natural gas itself. We think the simplest explanation for that is poor well integrity.
In other words, those mile-long pipes can leak.
Depending on where you are, 5, 10, 20% of oil wells have problems with their well integrity through time.
We're not saying it's a problem every time, but there are a number of cases where there have been problems.
And it's not just people drinking that water. Veterinarian Michelle Bamberger and her husband Cornell professor Bob Oswald studied 24 cases where animals had problems.
Changes in breeding, abortions, stillbirths were more common after drilling than before drilling.
Which brings us back to George Stark. His Cabot Oil and Gas Company has racked up a number of violations for allowing natural gas to pollute the local water.
We saw this 2010 letter from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection saying, Cabot, you have leaky pipes, shame on you. What was that about?
That was at a time in 2010 that there was a question of what we would refer to as methane migration. What we discovered is 70% of the water wells here in Susquehanna County have pre-existing methane in them already.
Today, Pennsylvania gas companies are required to test homeowners' water before and after fracking.
Live and learn, huh?
Live and learn. Now we test it everywhere.
Then there's the disposal problem. What do we do with all the poisonous water that comes back up from the fracked well?
There are still some states where you can spray that water on lands or where it's used for dust control.
Oh, come
That's a
on.
terrible idea.
Ugh.
Most of it around the country goes to what are called deep injection wells. You take your wastewater and you pump it back underground, very deep.
Maybe the best solution is the newest one, recycling that nasty water to use in the next well.
What we're able to do is clarify that water and reuse it again for the next operation.
I was really hoping I'd be able to tell you once and for all who's right, the gas companies or the worried environmentalists. But I'm sorry, I can't. There's so much we don't know. We don't know exactly what chemicals they're using.
Problem is there are a number of proprietary compounds that are used. They're not revealed.
We don't know how often problems occur.
A number of these cases have been closed by non-disclosure agreements. The landowner, the farmer is compensated, and in exchange for that compensation, their silence is purchased.
Is fracking worth the risk? Trouble is, we don't know what the risk is. The EPA is only now conducting the first national comprehensive study, and it won't be finished till 2014. Here's one thing we do know. Fracking has been incredibly successful. There are 36,000 fracking wells in this country. Thousands more open up every year. The price of natural gas has dropped 86% from its high in 2008. We're actually about to start exporting it. Over time, it's a good bet that fracking will become cleaner and safer thanks to public pressure and new regulations. And that's lucky because here's another thing we know for sure. Fracking isn't going away.